Hi, welcome to Estate Planning Blueprint, where we offer tips on estate planning for lawyers and financial advisors and anyone else who has an interest in this area. And today we're going to be talking about special needs trusts, giving you a few tips on that. These are some tips that I wish I had known when I was first starting out. So I think this will be useful for anybody that's new to the area or somebody that maybe is an advisor and only consults with this, sees this issue once in a while. So I think you'll find the tips useful. So what we're going to be talking about is a situation in which you would not want to use a special needs trust, and another situation where you would want to use a special needs trust and it might not be so obvious, and then a thought or two about who should be the trustee. So quick review, if you're not familiar with special needs trust, it's a trust for someone who has special needs, like has a disability. And if the trust is set up properly, the assets won't be countable for Medicaid purposes and for other governmental benefits purposes. So you might have somebody that is on SSI or Medicaid, something like that, and they can't exceed maybe $2,000 in countable assets. So anything within a special needs trust is not going to be counted. So this can be really useful, especially if you have somebody that has cognitive disability and you have somebody else manage this for the person, and whatever they have is not going to put them off of their benefits in any way. So it's something that we often think about when people are inheriting money, or maybe they might have gotten some money from a lawsuit, something like that. And so that brings me to my first tip, which is you don't always have to use a special needs trust. So we sort of think about it reflexively sometimes, and we think, okay, we just settled a big lawsuit for a certain amount of money, and person's disabled, so let's set up special needs trust. But so what I want you to do is think about that, because if you have somebody that's not on benefits that are means tested, and not all of them are, then you might not have to go in that direction. So for an example, if you have somebody that, let's say, is on Social Security disability, okay, this is different from SSI. Now with SSI, it's also for disabled people, but it has a means test where you can't have more than $2,000 in assets. But with Social Security disability, if you have a work history and then you become disabled and you apply for that, you don't have the same kind of means test. All right, so you might have a client who maybe has a bad back. That's why they're disabled, right? And they're cognitively fine. They're able to handle large sums of money. So there's really no reason to set it up in trust for them and put a barrier between them and their funds, where somebody else would be managing it for them, and they would have to apply for some kind of a distribution if they needed something out of their trust. So don't just reflexively use a special needs trust every time somebody's disabled. See if it's something that they can handle, and if it's going to affect their benefits in any way. Now you have to be a little careful, because sometimes maybe somebody that's on Medicare for their health insurance, they might be on SSDI, regular Social Security disability, and Medicare, and you think, well, okay, so they don't have a means tested type of benefit. They could if they're dual eligible. Medicaid might be paying their Medicare premium each month. So you have to be a little careful, but look into it thoroughly, see if somebody really needs those, if they really have a means tested type of benefit. And if not, then consider not having a special needs trust and making some other arrangements with that inheritance or with the lawsuit proceeds. All right, now step number two, or tip number two, is a situation in which somebody is under 65 and they need some sort of nursing home care. So in that situation, it's not always so obvious. Again, we kind of get locked into our thinking and think, if somebody's in a nursing home, they have some assets, how do we get them qualified for Medicaid? And there are different ways to spend down. Some ways are better than others. Some ways you can spend down and protect some of those assets. But if they're under 65, they could set up a special needs trust of their own called a self-settled special needs trust, put assets into that, and qualify immediately. So it's not so obvious, because usually when people are in a nursing home, right, then they're spending down, trying to qualify, trying to buy exempt assets, doing the various asset protection techniques that often involves spending down some of the assets. But this one's really quick and effective. You set up a self-settled, meaning it's using their own funds, set up a self-settled special needs trust, and they can qualify right away. So an example would be, let's say, this happened a number of years ago. It had a client who was about 58, and she was working, had no spouse, kids were grown, and had an aneurysm. So she went from working, being fully employed one day, and then next thing you know, was in a nursing home needing full-time care. So with somebody like that at age 58, we were able to set up a special, a self-settled special needs trust and put all of her assets in, and she was able to qualify immediately. So someone at that age might be in a nursing home for a while, and having funds in a special needs trust could be really useful, because they're able to benefit from that for maybe decades to come. And it's also useful from the standpoint that they're just going to qualify right away and not have to spend a lot of it down. So another one that I had occurred in the last year, where this woman had early onset Alzheimer's. And in that case, she was married, and there were only so many assets you can give to your spouse. And after a while, we were able to put in some of the excess resources, and again, qualified very quickly. So this is not obvious, because we don't usually think of creating a special needs trust for somebody that's going into a nursing home. But if they're under 65, that will work, and it can be very effective. So my third tip has to do with who should be the trustee. And my recommendation there is to, in the vast majority of cases, have a professional handle that. So either a bank, trust company, a nonprofit that handles special needs trusts, something like that. So occasionally clients will want somebody in the family to serve in this function. And I think it's a bad idea for several reasons. One is being a trustee of a special needs trust is really hard. The rules are complex. There's a lot of ways to mess it up and throw somebody off their benefits. And the consequences are pretty severe. If somebody loses their income, loses their health insurance, that can be really bad news. And it can happen very easily. So it's better to have somebody who does this all the time, is familiar with all the rules, and is able to handle that, be the trustee. Also, it's time consuming. So if you're asking somebody in the family to do this, keep in mind that you're asking them to look after investments, file a Form 1041 tax return every year. Those are difficult, and to take on all the decision making that goes along with being a trustee. Should I make this or that distribution? What effect is that going to have on the person's benefits? Do I need to consult legal counsel before doing that? But I think the biggest reason to have a professional is so that whoever it is that you have in mind to serve as trustee in the family, that they can just relate to that disabled person as a family member, right? So instead of asking the person's brother or sister to be their trustee and make decisions about whether they're going to get this or that distribution, just have them relate to them as a brother or sister. I think family relations are priceless, and it's really better to have the professionals handle that. Now, similar to number 1 and 2, I don't want to be so inflexible that I would never consider having somebody in the family do that. I think there are limited situations where it might be appropriate, but really it's a general rule. In the vast majority of cases, you're going to be better off recommending that someone hire a professional to be the trustee of a special needs trust. Okay, so we're doing this as a live stream right now. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to make those, and you can ask questions about this topic or any other topic. And there's a little bit of a delay between the time you make a comment and the time it appears on my screen. So I'll just answer a common question, which is, what's it like doing special needs trusts? I find it very rewarding. I think it's a really satisfying area of practice because you get to help a lot of people. You get to help people that really need it, and it can be good working with families, providing these kinds of services and solutions that will really give them a much better outcome and improve their quality of life. Also on these live streams, just want to mention, if you've been watching, we've been doing this for just a couple of weeks now, but so we don't have a lot of viewers, don't get a lot of questions yet. I'm hoping in the future we'll get more. But I do want to mention that, in addition to just typing in a question, my system allows me to have somebody get recognized. You can like hold your hand up and get recognized, and I can actually put somebody else on the screen. So if anybody has a setup where you have good audio, maybe like a headset or something, and want to come on the screen and ask a question, we can actually have a dialogue back and forth. So that might be interesting in the future as we go along and develop these live streams. So I just want to mention for the time when we get this posted to YouTube, if you have any questions or comments, put them in the comments below. And if you've gotten value out of watching this video, we'd really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. That really helps us to reach more people doing this. And also you can click the bell for notifications. And that way, whenever we do live streams in the future, you'll get notified about our comments. So with that, thanks for watching, everyone, and see you in the next video.